and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup.
And?
We won't be able to talk about the Republican debate this week, so instead we have fantastic entertainment reporter Rob Shubert here.
To take us through the fall season.
He does you've seen him everywhere on the Today Show and with Hoda and Kathy Lee. And
get a shot of him so they know who we're talking about. Come on. He's laughing over there.
And he used to do the gossip table on VH1. So we'll get to you in a minute, Rob, but we're laughing with him, so we're having fun.
And we remind you that if you watch us on Free Speech, that they are in pledge mode until September 27th, and that means that they're only going to be delivering us to you on Saturdays at 7 o'clock and Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. 7 a.m.
Eastern Times.
Yeah, Eastern Times.
Yes.
Okay.
Also in the news this week, Kim Davis has returned to not doing her job in Kentucky.
Another city in Indiana is protecting LGBT rights.
Sad to say that no LGBT protests that we know of are planned for the Pope's U.S. visit, despite Francis shutting those who affirm gay love out of his world meeting of families.
The 38 national churches that make up the Anglican Communion, that's the Episcopalians in America, may go their separate ways on doctrine.
38 separate ways?
They are just saying we are going to be a loose confederation.
Okay.
Because we don't agree on these things, do we?
Well, we thought that Australia's new prime minister, who ousted the anti-gay prime minister in a party vote, would take us to same-sex marriage there, but he has promised to follow the old guy's route of no parliamentary vote and waiting for a national plebiscite.
Elton John thought he got a call from Vladimir Putin to set up a meeting on LGBT rights. We'll talk about that.
Trans activists stormed the stage at the U.S. Conference on AIDS with a lot of complaints.
And, this is probably going to put us over the top. Caitlyn Jenner has now come out for same-sex marriage.
Late to the party. We will discuss that and many other things with our very, very welcome guest, Rob Shubert.
Thank you for having me. I'm a fan of this show.
Well,
Thanks.
we're fans of yours.
Very sweet.
For a long time, and of course the fact that we all live in the same building. Nothing you should pay attention to.
It's
Rob,
a big building. There are 1,400 apartments, literally.
It's a big building. It's a big building. Anne and I have met many afternoon in the laundry room.
You just mentioned celebrities that I didn't even know lived there.
Yeah, there's some celebrities in the building too. I think Debbie Harry we still have.
Yes.
Yep.
Have Debbie Harry.
Annie Leibovitz moved
Leibovitz moved
Susan
out.
Sontag died.
David Chase, who created The Sopranos, just bought the penthouse there.
Yeah.
He's had it for 2 years and he's never set a foot in it. I don't
Rufus
think he's lived there.
Wainwright was there for a long
That's
time.
right.
Yes.
Terry Hatcher, remember her from Superman?
Yes, absolutely.
Terry was there.
And of course us.
And for you old-timers, Sam Waterston.
That's right.
Used to be there.
That's right.
Not so old time. People watch him on Law and Order. Anyway, Rob, you do know from many television appearances, he is the go-to guy for gossip and entertainment reporting on the evening entertainment shows.
Yeah, it's a fun gig. I'm not quite sure how it happened, but I've ended up rattling on TV a lot about celebrities, and it's fun. I think that the world has changed a lot with gossip. In the old days, and when I say the old days, I mean 6 years ago, being sort of mean as a Perez Hilton type character got you a lot of attention and got you these TV gigs. Now, I don't think they want that anymore. They want a pinch, not a punch. And I think that if you can do that, that's what is apparently now television friendly.
Well, is that why you're naughty but nice?
I'm naughty but nice, and I actually stole it. I was the editor of OK Magazine for a little while, and the magazine wasn't doing very well. It was a very celebrity-friendly magazine, which meant celebrities got paid a fortune to say rubbish, and we printed it. So they were all so happy, and they were all so thrilled with their lives, and nobody was getting divorced. And so when I went in there as their executive editor, I said, we are naughty but nice. And if you think about it, when you do dinner with or drinks with your friends and they're nice, it's a little bit boring. Really not boring. And if you go out for dinner with your mean friends, it's fantastic, but you need a shower afterwards. So if you can get it in between, that's the secret.
All right, we'll try to hit that sweet spot. But you actually have played both sides of the fence because you started your career in press agent offices.
I came here with my H-1B visa, and I got a job at a PR office that did a ton of celebrities. So I answered the telephones there, and I slowly worked my way up. And before I left, I was repping J-Lo, P. Diddy, Jessica Simpson, Alicia Keys.
In the tuna fish days?
Just after the divorce. So when she got divorced from Nick, she hired my company then. So I became Jessica's publicist then. And a ton of Britney Spears for a while, Bon Jovi. It was really, really fun. And the one I learned the most from is Diddy. Like, I really learned show business from Puff. And I hope he wouldn't mind me saying this, but what I learned is that you don't need an enormous amount of talent to be very successful.
Well, we've proved that. But,
Andy doesn't seem to agree.
he's turning red.
I have the utmost respect for you, Anne.
I'm just riffing with Rob.
Here we go.
It's irresistible. But how did that form your opinion of celebrities that you now take into the other side?
It taught me everything. And like now as a gossip columnist with my own website. And
Your own website?
Naughtygossip.com. It's really successful. Like I started this little site. I was at the Huffington Post blogging for them. And then I realized I could probably get a lot less traffic and make more money doing it for myself. So I saved up enough money. That's the thing about these websites. You have to save enough money for a good year to get some traction. So I saved up enough money that I didn't have to get a paycheck for a year. Yeah. And so I sat there in my underwear in the building where we all live, and I blogged and posted stories. And working for celebrities really helped because I got A, their trust, and B, I learned that everybody has a nemesis. So if you were Tyra Banks, you might not like Naomi Campbell. So if you want some gossip on Naomi, you talk to Tyra's friends. So everybody, doesn't matter how successful you get in life, a celebrity always has an Achilles heel. I remember when I first started working with Bon Jovi, John is very frustrated about the success of Bruce Springsteen. So even somebody that sold, I think, 100 million records has an Achilles heel. And I also learned, too, the best gossips in the business are hair and makeup. They know everything. So if you've got a good source who's a hair and makeup person, you'll know all the secrets. But there's a lot of stuff I don't print. So there's a lot of stuff that when my phone rings or I get emails, it's going back to that tone. If you, one of the biggest issues of OK Magazine I ever did is after Anna Nicole Smith had died, we paid $1 million for the first photographs of the little baby, Danny Lynn. And early on we figured out that the dad, Larry, wasn't quite as sweet as what we thought he was as the public. We wanted him to be the hero of this story. Every story needs a hero. And so once we actually exposed him and told, I think the cover was his twisted double life or something very scandalous, it didn't sell. And it's because you can't tell anybody what they don't want to hear. You have to confirm what they believe.
Right. So for the purposes of this show especially, what's your standard on reporting someone's gayness? If they lead a public gay life all over the place, but they still refuse to talk about like a Kevin Spacey or something like that, I mean, what's your standard?
I mean, I don't out people, and it's not because I'm anti-outing. It's just that I think we all know. Like, I think that we've come to a point in the culture where to stand up and say someone's gay isn't that interesting to me.
Well, I think the context matters, and we certainly routinely refer to someone like Kevin Spacey or Queen Latifah.
Well, the hypocrisy is something that I think is shocking. I think that, you know, when people are out there outing politicians who do terrible things to the gay community, I very much support that. But I think with celebrities, and most of the people that I report on are silly reality stars, they're either out and that's how they make their living because they're so out and proud. There's very few people that I think are still relevant, that are still in the closet.
Well, see, we never used that word, outing. Actually, it was coined by Time magazine to talk about this aggressive act that people like Mike Signorilli were using against people. And we don't report it unless they are engaging in public gay activity, essentially. Going out with someone, being seen holding hands with someone or something like that. I mean, if it's their private life, we don't know about it.
We all tiptoed, I think, for a long time around Anderson Cooper, which you know, we all knew, and ultimately he confirmed. But I think, you know, it's fascinating. The word outing is very aggressive, and I understand why why that term is probably not the best term. But Anderson's somebody that I would talk about on Naughty Gossip as just it was a given.
Exactly.
Like I wouldn't, you know, the headline would not be Anderson Cooper's gay.
Because
just
you're
Anderson's
right, no,
boyfriend.
that's what I mean.
Like, yeah, I would report it.
Reporting.
Okay.
I would report it.
All right.
Okay.
So I am very fascinated by the youth celebrities of today
amazing.
and the way they're playing with sexuality and gender.
Well, particularly ladies. Like we
Yes.
should point out here that Demi Lovato, Miley Cyrus,
Yeah.
a lot of female stars seem to be doing this or talking about it, and the male stars are still not doing it. There's a lot of male stars out there that certainly flirt with that gay community. I think the best example at the moment is Nick Jonas. He's somebody that's going to gay bars, he's taking his shirt off, he's doing these very evocative videos or underwear commercials, clearly appealing to a gay audience, but he's making it very clear that he likes the gays a great deal, but he himself is straight. Now the girls, and I think Miley is probably the best example of this. It seems
She's
to be
amazing, I think.
amazing, just fearless about it to the point where, you know, sources were saying that the record company were telling her to like lay off it a little bit, and they miss Hannah Montana a little bit. And this album that she put out for free, the label wouldn't put out. She wanted to do an experimental album, really weird, wacky stuff. And they said no, so she put it out free on iTunes.
Well, a lot of it is about smoking pot.
It is,
and I'm
yeah.
sure they don't like that. And she is clearly someone who started as this child star, but is growing up and exploring who she is.
She's calling the shots. At the moment, Taylor Swift, we're going to see a massive change in her. Her mother ran that career for her entire life, I mean, since she was a wee girl. And now her mother is sick and has had to take a back step. Nobody ever takes a back step in a family because they want to. It's normally because they get fired or something awful happens, like they're not very well. So the mother has cancer, has taken a back step, and I think we're seeing Taylor do stuff that we wouldn't have seen had the mother overseen the career.
Well, I think all her hanging out with this posse of models and actresses is a little more sophisticated or adult version of what Miley is doing.
Exactly. It's a little bit more polished. Like what we love about, like Miley's almost taken Lady Gaga's role as this sort of performance artist that's fearless, that is willing to do anything or paint her face or wear
But Taylor's playing with this too.
She is, but I think in a way that's maybe just a little bit more Gucci or mainstream, or it's always just a little bit more polished.
So do we think it's easier for women because of any differences in sexuality between men and women, or it's just a lot more homophobia against male-male affection?
I think that men have always been titillated by these beautiful lesbian-ish girls, and I think playing with that lipstick lesbian type thing has certainly worked for a lot of singers. Even going back to Madonna when she was hanging out with Sandra Bernhard, like this is something that I think has gone on for a long time. It hasn't with men. Like this has never. I can't really think of that example of a straight.
Well, because they're giving up power by doing it. They're being regarded as feminine.
When Vanessa Williams was stripped of her Miss America title in 1983 and just reinstated this week on the pageant, partly it was because the photos were woman-on-woman action.
Yes. Well,
and that was, well,
yeah,
32 years ago.
the nude photos.
She had agreed to do this, to go back, to do the big reunion, and part of their agreement was that she would finally, after 32 years, get this apology. What she wasn't very happy about is the pageant wanted to just put out a statement. Oh, no. She wanted it on the show. And she got it. She came out, she did The Colour of the Wind, a big ballad, and then the president of the network came out and said, we're sorry. I think she wanted the crown back on. Like, she would have let them resash her. Is that such a word?
I would have liked to see that. But it's spilling over everywhere. I see it on The Real Housewives of New York.
Yeah.
They're all playing now with sexuality with each other.
It's to the point now where it's almost a disadvantage to be a straight guy in show business. On my show, The Gossip Table, we were actively looking for a straight gossip columnist, male.
Yeah,
so we
good
have
luck.
3 beautiful girls, me as gay as a goose, and we were really looking for it. We couldn't find one. We hired Noah, who's a sweetheart, a very openly gay man, but originally they were looking for a gay man to mix it up. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
That we had to find as straight as the minority.
We have to start bringing the non-gay perspective to this.
Not yet. Can we talk about movies coming out now? Lily Tomlinson Grandma currently plays lesbian, and excellent reviews, but we have these movies coming out. Julianne Moore playing Laurel Hester in Freeheld with Ellen Page.
A dying lesbian
Kate
cop.
Blanchett
It's
and
amazing.
Rooney Mara playing a lesbian couple. And then we have the controversies about the transgender movies with non-transgender people.
And Eddie Redmayne's in this. Yeah, I think it's
Eddie Redmayne's in The Danish Girl, and Elle Fanning in About Ray, playing a trans teen.
And then
Susan Sarandon is a lesbian grandma on that.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I mean, it's a fascinating. I'm so proud that we've come this far, that now these movies are, there's several of them. There used to be one a season if we were lucky. Now there's several. And I think in many ways agents and managers and certainly actors think of this as their role to maybe help them get an Oscar, or this is a way to really pop still. And so it's not the norm yet. If it was, we wouldn't really be talking about it, but it's sort of like their chance to stand out from the crowd.
Well, the movies have always been, going to the theater for the movies has always been the problem. I mean, television has been way ahead of the movies on this and covering these themes. And then, of course, we also have to, you know, has anybody seen the Stonewall film?
No, I mean, it's getting like some really buzz out there in not a positive way. I think that Larry Kramer's been very outspoken about some of the...
Well, the trailer is hideous.
It's hideous.
And I've seen it online, of course, but I actually went to the movies last week and saw the trailer in the movie theater.
How did it play on the big screen?
Horrible. Horrible. It just made my skin crawl.
Right.
It was so
I mean, it seems such an odd choice to me. If you're going to be brave enough, brave's maybe not the right word, but if you're going to make that movie, tell that story. It's a pretty amazing story, and you don't need to whitewash it with a nice guy who's corn-fed from Ohio coming in to play the lead.
He's from your country.
He's British, yes. You don't need to
like everyone else in the movies.
It feels like they're edging their bets, but I do understand too these movie companies, and that's why we have to get gay people in positions of power, not just actors. We need people
David Geffen
behind the scenes. We need out gay people, proud
David
gay
is
people,
out,
proud, happy gay people to make these decisions.
Hey, it's business. Well, that brings us to one of the big controversial questions: is, you know, people who object to, okay, Eddie Redmayne's not a transgender person playing the Danish Girl, this key transgender role. We've said it about, you know, a lot of these gay roles are not going to gay actors. Where are we on all
I think we should kiss
this?
Eddie Redmayne's feet for doing this. I want this movie to be a monster success. A guy that just won an Oscar, for him to take a role like this tells me who he is. You know his managers and agents want to put him into Mission Impossible 12. Like, you know, like that, they get 10% of everything he makes. So it's in their interest that he becomes a blockbuster star. It's people like Hugh Jackman too, who take a year off to do Broadway instead of making $200 million in a franchise like Wolverine. I think for me, progress is these movies being made. In the ideal world, will we get to a place where gay actors are playing gay people on TV and in movies? Yes, I hope we will. But at the minute, I'm happy a movie like this with such a serious actor is being made, and I hope it's going to win awards, and I hope a lot of people see it.
Yes, I remember when Chris Reeve appeared in 5th of July taking a gay role, you know, big gay role on Broadway, and he was not a very good actor on the stage. But that's why people saw the show.
Right.
Yes.
Because he was Superman.
Yes. And Caitlyn Jenner, good for the transgender or
I think
bad?
it started off really good. I don't think the show's going to get picked up for a second season. The numbers
don't think it has to.
have gone significantly down. I think that a lot of people tuned in at first, and I think for me to get that many people to tune in, or 17 million people to watch the Diane Sawyer interview, that for me is enough. And so if the show did go down every week, which it did, I think that the amount of Kardashian fans that might have watched the first episode or the first 10 minutes is something that's going to help us all.
She needs you as a publicist.
Or she needs Diane Sawyer. Those two together were good. I think
Definitely.
Caitlyn's better with Diane.
But how could
because Caitlyn is a acknowledged celebrity. That's
Right.
what she's interested in. And glamour, you had only to look at the Vanity Fair cover to
Right.
understand what her
I
self-image
know,
is.
that was a great big secret. And the other little secret on that show too is that most of the ladies on the show were cast. These are not organic relationships. A reality show that's not organic. This is a show that was shockingly put together.
But, of course,
but that's okay, because it ended up working, and I think they may have been put together because she's brand new,
Right.
and she wouldn't have these
Right.
relationships, but you could see relationships develop in
Yeah,
the
what I
show.
like about them putting them together is there's a lot of ladies on that show that would never have anything in common.
Yes.
And so, like, if they really had taken Caitlyn's real friends, it might have been two very, very wealthy, rich trans ladies instead of this diverse group that made it a little bit more exciting.
But who could have let Caitlyn go into an interview with Ellen and be asked about same-sex marriage and say, well, I'm kind of traditional on that, and then she apologized later and said, oh, we should all have equal rights.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's trying to like backtrack there, but it's shocking that she said that. But I can imagine if you're Caitlyn's publicist, there are so many new things to teach her that this is just one of many. Like,
she's a 65-year-old Republican.
I know.
Who's been living with the Kardashians for 20 years. So,
and who would believe in that entire family? Like, Kanye West comes out the best.
God.
Like, he's the one that was the most supportive of the whole bunch. Like, it's Kanye West who became a hero for this.
We call this surrealism in everyday life. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say, what can you tell us about Elton John? I mean, this week the big story was he thought he got a call. He went on the radio and he said it's terrible what they're doing in Russia. And then he said,
even though I have not stopped performing there
he's
for
very
1
big
minute.
there. He's very big there. Then his publicist says he got a call from Vladimir Putin and they're going to have a meeting. And they're very happy. And then it turned out to be some. There they are.
Oh, good grief! I've got the same glasses.
It turned out to be two Russian pranksters, but it was taken very seriously by the press as a story.
Because he said it happened. Like, you know, I don't think the press made this up. Like, Elton thought he was talking to the Prime Minister of Russia, and I think I saw Elton once at the backstage at Good Morning America. I was there doing gossip segment. He was there promoting a movie or a CD or something. It is an entourage. So you see him arrive with 4 male bodyguards who look like they're from a Dolce & Gabbana act. I mean, they're just gorgeous. And then Arthur and Martha, his 2 poodles, his 2 spaniels, they get walked in. It's like Noah's Ark. You see, it's the most genetically perfect creatures, even down to the dogs, being marched in. So I think Elton's world is probably so small that if somebody says to Elton, an assistant or a manager, oh, the president of Russia's on the phone, Elton would be like, put him through. If it was me and you, we wouldn't believe it for a second. But I think in Elton's world, it makes perfect sense that the president would call Elton.
And I guess in that bubble is where he thinks that he is in charge of everything.
Yes, and nobody's told him no for a very long time. I've seen it when I worked with Jennifer Lopez or any celebrity. Their circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and often they believe what they are told. And so if Elton's butler or whoever says, Mother Teresa's on the phone, Elton will probably be like,
even though she's dead.
Even though she's dead, it's a bad example.
Well, you know, in that Walt Disney documentary, they said he just didn't have any friends, basically. He didn't have anybody outside.
You see it a lot, though. You see it with Jackson, and I think we saw it recently with Whitney Houston. It's amazing how a lot of them are really, really lonely. I really understand when you see these huge stars. I worked with Bon Jovi, and he did not do this, but when I was working with Bon Jovi, they were selling out stadiums still. And then after 20,000 people screaming your name in a small city in Iowa, or you go back to a hotel and you sit by yourself.
Yes.
And it's really weird to see like how that mind works. You understand why they go back to their hotels and do drugs or drink. And I think that sort of attention can be really toxic, and Elton's had it for a very long time.
Now, speaking of Walt Disney, I think you reported it too. I mean, they're talking about doing a remake of Mary Poppins with Rob Marshall directing. This sounds like a sacrilege to me. They're going to set it in the Depression. Why would they do this?
People are really mad about this. So they've had terrible success, Disney, in taking their animated classics and turning them into live action. So they're doing Beauty and the Beast at the moment. Beauty and the Beast, a great film, but it doesn't have the sort of love and respect of a Mary Poppins. But I think they did it with Maleficent, the Angelina Jolie. They did it with Alice in Wonderland, and they made huge amounts of money. So I think they figured out Mary's next. What's so difficult about this one is that Mary wasn't an animated movie, it was a live action to begin with. And so now you're taking on Julie Andrews. Beloved figures and a score that everybody knows.
Fantastic.
And Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman, who are terrific writers, wrote Hairspray.
They're going to change the score?
They're writing new songs.
Oh, no. When Mary holds your hand, you feel so grand. I can't.
Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chim. Feed the birds, tuppence a bag. They can do better than that. Are they crazy?
No, they can't.
They did it recently and got in trouble, though, in London. Mark Shaman and Scott have done a stage show of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes.
And they threw out the songs there and wrote a new score.
Wow.
That's going to disappoint people when they come.
It's a lack of new ideas.
Yeah.
And they're lazy and they're stupid and they go
and
back
it's an easy book, and it sounds great on paper, but I think this Twitter outrage, I love this about social media, this Twitter outrage must have caught them by surprise. It blew up Twitter, it was trending. People say, I sound like Barbara Walters then, it's trending.
Well, they talked about redoing All About Eve a couple of years ago.
ridiculous.
It's insane.
What you
the
do,
greatest movie ever made.
You remake
Bar
bad
none.
movies. That you don't disappoint anybody.
Right.
They say that about stage shows. They say never turn a great movie into a musical because it can't get any better.
Well,
what can they improve?
Xanadu was a great stage show.
But
that
it was a
hilarious.
shitty movie. It was a bad movie.
Exactly.
So's the point.
Made of bad-
Sunset Boulevard is a great movie,
Right.
but a terrible stage show.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the theater season. There are a couple of gay angles coming in. George Takei is doing Allegiance.
I saw him a couple of nights ago. We went to a fashion show and ended up sitting next to each other. He has put his heart and soul in this, and what I'm told...
It's a musical about Japanese internment camps. He was in a Japanese internment camp as a kid.
And left with $20 and, like, you know, a shovel. Like, they took away his life. And so he was saying that this musical it's a labor of love for him. And Leah Lasonga from
Salonga
from the original Miss Saigon is coming back and doing this. George...
I hope it's good.
I hope it's good. But even if it's not great, and I hope it is, and I have no reason to say that, even if it's not great, I think George on stage telling a story that is so personal, and for me, not since Ragtime have we had a real meaty, serious musical out there. I'm sort of sick of these.
I would remind you of Fun Home.
Fantastic, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
But I want that same
You're
feeling
absolutely right.
from this one.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And I think it's easier to put on another Mamma Mia type show.
Now, I'm not an Ivo Van Hove fan, the director, because he deconstructs things, but he's got 2 big Broadway shows coming up with some gay angles. View from the Bridge is going to have Russell Tovey, the British actor, who, has he redeemed himself after some of his comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think he said stupid stuff, and I think that I think sometimes when you live in the public eye and it's something that, you know, it's hard for people to understand, you say stupid stuff. If you don't live in the public eye, you say stupid stuff. Like my friends remind me all the time of the stupid stuff I'm saying. I can't imagine if I was important enough for anyone to care about it. But
and he's also directing The Crucible in February, but Ben Whishaw, who only came out of the closet when he got married.
Yep.
You know, so
I think friends knew, like a lot like, you know, their friends know about this. It's about coming out publicly that I think is still so important. I think celebrities that come
it is, because we still live in a world of violence and stigma and fear, and that's why we need these role models.
And even though Caitlyn might not be the hero we want her to be, the fact that she's out now, I think helps.
That's what Ann Northrup says on the Gay USA show.
I've watched every episode of the series. I think it's tremendously important, and I think it's had a tremendously positive effect.
As a gay and openly gay man, I've learned, shamefully, stuff about the trans community that I didn't know and I should have. And for me, that 6-week, 8-week episodes was mind-blowing. I can't imagine what that would do if I was watching it in a straight house in middle America. It must be transformative.
Exactly.
So for me, even though not ideal, a good 8 out of 10.
Anyway, and also that gay playwright Mike Bartlett, who wrote Cock, among other things, is done Charles III. Prince Charles as king 10 years hence. It's terrific.
Yeah,
I've seen it.
Oh, you have? People, friends of mine, ran in London for a while, was the talk of the town, and the whole premise about this is waiting for the job your entire life. And the reality now is he'll have this job probably for a very short amount of time. I think
it starts at the funeral.
If at all.
Queen Elizabeth
and it's
has
in
just become...
iambic pentameter.
Oh.
But it works. I'm just telling you it works.
I can't wait to see it. I hear it's terrific, and Queen Elizabeth has just become the longest reigning monarch in the history of Britain, out-reigning Queen Victoria. So Charles has been waiting for that job a long time. I think,
longer than anyone.
Yeah,
my mother used to think I should marry him.
Well, well, it didn't end well for his first wife, Anne. Let's say that. It did not end well for the first wife.
Nor would ours have. Can we move on to the Emmys?
Yes.
The Emmy
Do we
Awards
care
are
about the
coming up.
Emmys?
Sure, what the hell? What do we want to talk about? Who's going to win?
This Sunday, Fox, Andy Samberg is hosting.
It's a thankless job, and I think Andy knows this. Like, whenever you do these jobs, everyone always says yes when they're asked. Never say yes. Like, it's a thankless job. It's like they don't get paid very much. They have to work their tuchus off for, I think, a good episode
Well,
month.
1 out of 10.
1 out of 10.
Miley worked doing the MTV Awards.
Ellen was fantastic on the Emmys after 9/11. Like
Yes.
she killed it. The bad
Yeah.
word. She was extraordinary when she did that. So maybe Andy will impress us. I think the big buzz is probably John Hamm. It's the last
Yes.
season of Mad Men,
Yes.
and so the rumor is this is his to lose.
I hope
And
so.
I do too. I mean, it's been a fantastic show.
wins,
He's
doesn't
never
he?
won.
He's never won.
Never won.
Never.
He's been-
Show
he's
has won.
been terrific.
He hasn't won. Transparent.
He's
the other
given
one.
us so much pleasure.
Lots of pleasure, and now that his personal life is falling apart a little bit, he just broke up with his
that's
longtime
right.
girlfriend. That always helps. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it was done deliberately, but it was announced at the right time.
I mean, Elizabeth Taylor.
Were the
Elizabeth
votes
Taylor.
still coming in?
Elizabeth Taylor had to practically die to get an Oscar.
But she deserved it for Butterfield A.
Okay.
John deserves it, so I think Mad Men, look for that. Comedy, Jeffrey Tambor for
Yeah.
Transparent. That's going to probably be the big one too.
But you have a lot of LGBT nominees. Orange is the New Black,
Yep.
Transparent, Modern Family Always, even Kevin Spacey, Empire, my favorite new
Got
show.
snubbed though for Best Show.
I know, it's
Isn't that
tragic,
amazing?
but I can't wait for it to come
And
back.
the big rumor is they're trying to get Diana Ross for this season.
Of course.
That'd
Why
be great.
not?
Why not?
But Taraji P.
Yeah,
Henson
she
is
might win.
nominated.
They're saying that.
And
they're
Bessie
should.
about Bessie Smith.
Yes, that's
And Lily Tomlin. But, you know, Project Runway, Dancing with the Stars, Top Chef, all these shows, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, there are tons of nominees. Is it, I guess it has changed for television over the years.
I think TV is more daring, and you can put stuff on TV now that can pop and get attention and win these awards. And I've been to the Emmys, and it's a pretty gay night. Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of gay people there having a swell old time, and so now they might as well be winning the awards as well as like just
will you
dressing
be
these people.
there?
I'm not going to be there this year. I'm going to be here in New York. I'm working blogging away, and then I think the next day I'm on the Today Show gossiping about what they're wearing.
And we should remind people that if you want to know who's going to win, you can go to goldderby.com,
That's
Tom
right.
O'Neill's
Harvard,
website, and
Harvard.
find out.
He's always right. Yeah, always right.
Andy is one of his voters and beat Tom.
What?
This year.
Andy, who's going to win this year? And we're playing this
No,
next
yeah,
week.
don't
they
rate the
vote on
Emmys.
the
Oh, not-
Tonys.
oh,
the
the Tonys?
Tonys, yes.
Just
Well, Hamilton's going to win that.
for best musical, almost. Well, you never know what's going to come along.
What can beat Hamilton?
And
Don't ask me. I walked out.
Hamilton.
Do you know who fell asleep in it?
Who?
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah,
Hamilton,
I
I
thought it was
saw-
tedious.
If you're tired, you're tired.
Right. And then Madonna tweeted through it.
Oh,
I
well,
thought it
that's
was-
insane.
I thought it was a tedious
She's lucky
gimmick.
she wasn't sitting next to me.
Right, Andy would have.
Taken her thing away
You
from
should
her.
have, like
Yeah.
Patti LuPone.
Exactly.
I would have taken it away from her.
All right.
Don't
Well,
tweet.
this has
Turn
been
off- you can-
enormous fun. Will you come back and see us,
All the time, my favourite show.
or I'll just take a camera to the laundry
You'll
room?
see me in the laundry room.
Okay. Thank
Thank you,
you.
love. Thank you. Thank you, Anthony.
Take care.
Okay. We're sliding you out
Bye.
and going back to the news. He's
do have a-
waltzing his way. You can take your tea if you want.
We do have a
yes,
little bit of
and your
news.
phone. Don't forget your phone.
All right.
Okay. On with the show.
Wow, I'm rung
Thank
out.
you, Rob.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Yes. Whew. And from that, we have to turn to Kim Davis.
Well, she went back to work and didn't do her job in Rowan County.
Rowan, I'm confused, but whatever.
I guess it is Rowan.
Yeah.
All right. But her deputy clerk, and we have a picture of him, Brian Mason. He's sort of become our hero because
On the left there.
Yes, he can. He's giving a license to a lesbian couple there. He has continued to do this. He says, I'm going to obey the court order, and I have personal reasons, he says, for wanting to do this. Now, there is some question about the validity of the licenses, including being raised by James Essex of the ACLU,
That
who
bothers me.
was handling these cases. The governor says it's okay. The attorney general says it's okay. But the governor said these licenses that they've drawn up, these special ones for this county, substantially complies with substantially complies. Well, you were substantially substantially married. You know, you're not quite.
Well, the original, you know, we were looking at the law when this was all breaking a couple of weeks ago, and it said something about deputy clerks can fulfill the duties of clerks. So we thought, okay, fine. Then, of course, a deputy clerk can sign a license and it'll be fine. But I think the problem comes in with the fact that now they've sort of changed the designation to notary instead of deputy clerk, and they've taken Kim Davis's name and clerk designation off the license. It should be fine, but the fact that James Essex is raising questions, and I assume they're mostly about equality and that every license should conform.
Well, we heard from viewers in Florida. Yeah. They were getting licenses, 2 guys, and it said husband and wife. And they're pissed off about this, and they're told it's going to change on October 1st.
Yes,
and they'll be able to get
new forms will be available then. Meanwhile, in Kentucky, the Oath Keepers, who are a somewhat scary group, offered to show up as armed guards for Kim Davis to prevent her rearrest. Scary. Luckily, she hasn't been rearrested. And the Planting Peace organization, who are the ones who did the Rainbow House across the street from the Westboro Baptist Church.
More about which later.
Topeka, Kansas. They put up a billboard in Kentucky saying, "Dear Kim Davis, the fact that you can't sell your daughter for 3 goats and a cow means we've already redefined marriage." Well, and my question is, are you sure you can't sell your daughter for 3 goats and a cow? Is there a rule against that?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Well, I think that the American people agree with this group because the ABC News Washington Post poll said 74% of the American people say when religion conflicts with your duties, they need to treat everyone equally. In the Kim Davis case, specifically, though, 63% say she should be required to issue the licenses.
Well, I agree. I think she should. And we have discussed ad nauseum here how there is a difference between having the religious freedom to practice your religion privately or in a public context, but in a way that only affects you, like wearing a beard or a turban or whatever for religious reasons. But when you are affecting others, when you are, in essence, not doing your job and depriving others of their rights, then that is not an opportunity to...
And as I've said, in this, and if Judge Bunning, who has given us favorable rulings on this in Kentucky, asked more pointed questions, if you got to the bottom of what's going on with Kim Davis and these other people, it's just homophobia. It is not religion.
Of course.
Because if you question them about other things, oh, do you do this, do you do that, do that, do you allow this? They'd say, yeah, and that, even though the Bible says. Now, in North Carolina, all the magistrates in McDowell County are citing their religious exemption to opt out of officiating at marriages. You can't do any marriages if you won't do gay marriages, all 4 of them. So if you want to get married in that county, it's a couple of days a week, some clerks come over from another county, Rutherford County, 10 hours a week, and they'll do
switch.
It. Only, not supposed to use the word only in journalism, but 32 out of the 670 magistrates in the state have opted out of doing marriages. And couples who have had their marriages delayed, gay or straight, are encouraged to sue by our groups if they're having a problem.
In North Carolina.
In North Carolina.
Yeah. A couple of updates from Texas. First of all, since the Supreme Court decision at the end of June, just since the end of June, 2,500 licenses given to same-sex couples, they think. They don't register gender on the licenses, but analysis of names and whatever they can put together.
I think it's about 6% of the licenses that they've issued.
And some of that is catching up with a backlog of desire.
And the Attorney General there, Ken Paxton, has approved a settlement recognizing an 8-year relationship between Stella Powell and...
well, he didn't approve it. He filed a motion to prevent the widow from inheriting from her late common-law wife. Though he had gotten out of an earlier contempt charge by promising to follow the Supreme Court, the court has now approved the relationship and settlement, and
he doesn't like
Paxton's out of it.
All right.
In Mississippi...
and this means that one of the partners has died, and the estate is going to be divided between her wife, her common law wife, and her bloodkin.
Her blood kin had tried to walk off with the entire estate and deny the relationship.
That's not very nice.
Not nice at all, and very traditional. In Mississippi...
By the way, if you have a will, you can stop that.
Yeah.
So write a will.
Yes.
We always remind you.
In Mississippi, where same-sex couples have sued for the right to second parent adoption, same-sex parent adoption, both parents, the governor and attorney general have filed their own suit against that. They say that to acknowledge the married couple's right to adoption would be an overextension of the Supreme Court marriage
Well, they also
ruling.
say that you shouldn't be suing us. So we're not responsible for adoptions. Whatever happened to the buck stops here. This is Robbie Kaplan's case. She's the one who argued the Windsor decision before the Supreme Court, and we remind you that the Mississippi governor has an out gay son who he is obviously not very nice to.
He wouldn't be the first.
If you want to call in to the show and tell me that Dad is a great guy other than this, go ahead.
And in Houston, they are in the midst of a campaign over the Houston Equal Rights Ordinance, which was passed by the city council and then overruled by a judge, and now the people are going to vote on this. And we told you last week, I think, that our side, the pro-equal rights ordinance people, had put out a radio ad with a pastor, local pastor, trying to preempt the charges that this would lead to men in women's bathrooms because it guarantees equal rights for gender identity as well as sexual orientation. So the anti-side has put out a radio ad by a local pastor, Reverend Kendall Baker. But it turns out that Kendall Baker used to work for the city and was fired for sexually harassing women. And yet he makes this radio ad about warning the public about men in women's bathrooms.
Well, what's he got to say about the San Francisco jails? Because they are now moving towards allowing trans inmates to go to the jail, essentially, based on their gender preference by 2016. Currently, they are put in isolation.
Yes, and they can actually choose. They can choose to stay in an isolated or segregated facility, or they can, transgender women can go into the women's facility or transgender men into the men's facility. They will have the choice on
Let's talk about some church stuff. In Philadelphia, the archdiocese there, Archbishop Chaput, Pope Francis, for all his problems, will not make this guy a cardinal because he's so conservative, is making the parents of kids in Catholic schools sign a moral integrity memo, basically pledging, to comply with all aspects of the faith, even if they're not Catholic.
I love this. This is the second time we've heard of this in this country, and it seems it's going to spread across the country.
It's like a loyalty oath.
It is, and it's having the parents sign a pledge that they will live by Catholic doctrine. So it's originally targeted at same-sex parents.
Pretty tough.
It's a way to keep.
Masturbation is a mortal sin, for God's sake.
Exactly. How deep are you going to go?
Who can comply with that? Anybody out there?
How detailed are you going to get in your examination of the people signing these pledges? It's what you've always said about ways to shrink the church by insisting on the letter of doctrine.
Well, that was Cardinal Ratzinger, who became Pope Benedict. He actually said that. I'd rather have a smaller church.
Did you see? Where did I just see the thing about what a nice guy he is?
The New Yorker. The New Yorker article about the popes and what's going on in Rome now is basically trying to say that Francis is a lot more conservative than you think he is.
And that Pope Benedict was not as conservative as you thought he was.
He was a great guy, very personable, very polite, very nice. Just condemned you all.
Yeah.
Now, you all know that the Pope is coming to the United States. You can't get away from it. And I called around to the LGBT groups. I can't find any LGBT demos planned against the leader of a church that condemns us. Now, why is this?
Because he's done great PR that he loves us, even though he's not changed an ounce of doctrine.
And since I organized demos for the last 3 papal visits, going back to '79, I'll also say it's because we're winning on a lot of these issues. And
Yes.
screw him. I mean, I don't understand quite. I think it's a bit of idolatry that everybody wants to flock and see this person. And you hear people,
But that's always
you
true.
hear average people being interviewed on the news, and they say, "Well, he's closest to God in the world. He's the closest person to." That's what they think.
Not my people.
I think that's idolatry.
No, that would be Catholics saying
Anyway,
that.
all the LGBT groups have been shut out of all the meetings. No meetings are going to be held, although we'll see. No gay speakers other than a representative from Courage, which is the group of gay Catholics who don't want to be gay.
Isn't there some gay Catholic invited to some White House
Yes,
meeting
the White
or
House has
something?
made it a point of inviting a bunch of affirming gay people, but I talked to Marianne Duddy Burke, who is the head of Dignity, the gay Catholic group. She says, do I want to go down and sit on the lawn with 1,000 people to be in the audience while this is happening?
No.
No. There's an equally blessed coalition. They were thrown out of a Catholic church that's going to work on LGBT issues. They're going to meet in a Methodist church. Mark Siegel, who's the editor of the Philadelphia paper there, and some politics. They're having an LGBT family picnic in Philadelphia during the Pope's visit, and he's invited if he changes his mind.
No, God help us if he shows
But
up.
who is protesting on the gay theme? God Hates Fags Ministries. They are going to be there this is the Westboro Baptist Church. They are going to be there every single step of the way from Washington to New York to Philadelphia.
Because they know how to get press, too.
Yeah.
All right, can we move on to political news?
Yes.
All right, my next favorite story comes from Michigan, where the male and female members of the House of Representatives there were covering up their affair.
Not all of them, just these 2.
These 2, both married to others, by the
Both
man,
family values people.
very conservative Republicans. The man claimed that he was being blackmailed by a male prostitute to divert attention from his affair with this woman who also in the
He started
house.
a gay rumor about himself to distract.
Well, one of them has resigned and one has been expelled. And hallelujah and congratulations to the Michigan legislature for getting rid of them.
How about that Bernie Sanders? He spoke at Liberty University
Oh, he did,
this
yes.
week, and he said morality is more than just your view on abortion and gay rights, which he was open about, of course, because he supports gay
Didn't he
rights.
get some
and
applause
abortion.
on gay marriage for being for it?
I
think
didn't
he
read
did.
that part.
Well,
but he
he'll-
said morality is also hungry children. It's also
Yes.
the state of our planet. And it was a
So he
basically
agrees with the Pope.
tepid reception. Mike Signorelli is complaining that there's no LGBT rights on his website and that Hillary doesn't have a gay liaison. Well, Hillary's campaign manager is gay. Openly gay.
Yes, and Hillary in Iowa was talking about sexual assault on campus and included LGBT people in that, and said it's not just, straight men assaulting straight women. It's everybody is subject to assault, and that is true. And I'm sorry we have to wait till next week to discuss the Republican debates, but we will.
Congratulations, Columbus, Indiana. The council there unanimously passed protections on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity after more than a decade of struggle.
And Target Corporation has announced its support of a federal Equality Act, which has been proposed to protect sexual orientation and gender identity across the board. HRC, Human Rights Campaign, seems to be spending its time lining up corporate support for this bill at the moment, which is, not a terrible idea.
Sad news out of Washburn, Tennessee, where Jeff Amix's hardware store has a no gays allowed policy. They sold out of anti-gay merchandise.
Yeah.
He says business is up. He's selling hats and bumper stickers that say, choose God, not gays. That's not very nice.
In New York State, the State University of New York campuses have announced they will have a chief diversity officer who will monitor, among other things. They're going to allow students and staff to voluntarily announce their sexual orientation or gender identity in the sort of new wave of attempts to have better services and resources for the diverse population on campuses.
Well, there's always been a reluctance to ask people if they're gay.
Yeah.
And now they're getting down to it.
Well, they're allowing people to say so voluntarily, not requiring it.
And are you worried about Windows 10? It expands parental controls and allows parents to get weekly digests of kids' usage, which could expose LGBT kids to their parents. Advocates want the kids to be able to safely peruse LGBT info, like going to websites like gayusatv.org, which is us. And if you go there, you can sign up for our weekly email by going to our contact bio page. You got all that?
Yes. Contact. Go to the library to use the computer if you're worried about your parents seeing what you're looking at. And at Princeton University, we congratulate football player Mason Darrow. He's an offensive lineman, meaning on the offense.
Yes.
And he has come out. He's a junior, I believe, and of course his teammates love him, and his coach says he's a very important part of the team.
And he's the only out one in this
Division I.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Great.
And congratulations to Patricia Dawson, a trans woman who a federal court says can sue her former employer, H&H Electric in Arkansas, which fired her because she does great work, but she's too much of a distraction. So the court says she can sue on the basis of sex discrimination, which is good, and is the new pattern we're establishing. All right, we have about 6 minutes left.
For international news, well, Tony Abbott, who's the Prime Minister of the anti-gay Prime Minister of Australia, was ousted by his own party, and they elected a new leader, Malcolm Turnbull, to the Conservative Party, which is called the Liberal Party over there. Don't get too confused. But this guy who supports same-sex marriage says we're still going to have a plebiscite at the cost of $158 million, even though if they had the vote today, it would pass overwhelmingly in the Parliament. It's just an outrage.
It is, and he was asked about this at, sort of question time in Parliament by an opposition representative, a woman who got up and said, we could solve this in half an hour tomorrow if you would just let there be a free vote in the Parliament, and we'd save millions of dollars. And he said, what's wrong with democracy, with the people voting?
Well, let's get rid of the politicians. We don't need you then, I guess. We don't need representative government then.
Very disingenuous on his part.
Well, they're kind of throwing in the towel on the Anglican Church. They have all this controversy over gay stuff and women, priests and bishops and things like that. So the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, is calling a meeting in January to say we're going to reorganize this as a group of churches not linked by a common doctrine. That there are 38 national churches, and we can agree to disagree. The way they describe it is sleeping in separate bedrooms.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they're not getting anywhere on that. Nigeria and places like that, very anti-gay. Britain, much more pro-gay. So why not?
Last year, St. Petersburg, Russia, held its 6th annual Queer Fest, and it was quite a tussle for about 10 days. Milanov, the virulently anti-gay legislator there who created the anti-gay propaganda law, came in and tried to bust it up with thugs. But they persevered and they accomplished holding the festival. So they're at it again this year. The 7th annual Queer Fest is scheduled for September 17th through 26th. And everyone's a little on edge to see what's going to happen. We'll keep an eye on that.
Well, I mean, they quoted a Russian gay activist in the context of this Elton John Putin thing, saying, that could really make things move in this country if they actually met,
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
Anyway, the European Parliament has adopted a comprehensive report on fundamental rights that includes an extensive section on LGBTI rights, I should say. It addresses intersex people for the first time, and it condemns unnecessary genital surgery on them, which is only now forbidden in Malta.
In Thailand, the Gender Equality Act, which mandates non-discrimination for sexual orientation or gender identity, takes effect now, and they have closed some loopholes in it, but some remain about exemptions to it. But it's a step forward. And in El Salvador, they passed enhanced penalties for hate crimes on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. And it is the first mention in El Salvador laws of sexual orientation or gender identity. And things are very dangerous and violent in Central America
We are
these
making
days.
progress. When I did this story about the Pope's visit, and I don't think he's changing things substantially. But I talked to somebody from GLAAD who's very involved with this, who does their religious work, and he says, look, every denomination has gone through a process on this, including the Unitarians over the years. The problem with the Catholic Church is it doesn't have any democratic processes. Why isn't Malcolm Turnbull complaining about that?
By definition, the Catholic Church has no democratic processes. You know, there was a picture maybe in that Pope piece in the New Yorker of the Pope at some meeting at the Vatican with various cardinals and people around. And I looked at it and I said, you know, it wasn't a revelation, but there are no women in this picture.
Correct.
Zero, none at all.
Not even any nuns.
None. None nuns.
It's outrageous.
It is outrageous.
You can't do it
ridiculous.
and that's the thing about the papal visit. This is a world meeting of families, and we're being excluded from the room. That's an outrage.
Not,
but, I mean, some people
a surprise,
some people are going. They're paying their fare and they're going. But what can they do? They're not being given a voice.
Well, we'll see.
I say, speak up when you go.
Okay.
As we'll do a little AIDS news, that's what trans activists did at the U.S. Conference on AIDS in Washington. They stormed the stage and said, "We're not gay men," to protest the inclusion of trans women in gay male research and statistics.
The non-inclusion.
Yes, they got applauded.
Well, it turns out that the federal government, in doing research, classifies transgender women as men who have sex with men. And you may talk about biology, but trans women have different lives and different issues than gay men.
And are extremely vulnerable to HIV.
Have it in much higher numbers than any other population.
We remember the days when they wouldn't test HIV drugs on women.
Absolutely.
What a fight that was.
They also would like some jobs in this field, which they're not getting. And so they were quite angry, and justifiably so.
I mean, peer work is what really brings everything under control. You do need to bring everybody to the table.
Meanwhile,
if you want to solve the problem.
Yes. Meanwhile, a representative of Gilead Pharmaceuticals was scheduled to speak right after this all happened. Canceled the speech. Chickened out. Would not speak. Had nothing to say.
They've always been afraid of activists.
They certainly have, and they still are. Now, a couple of other notes. A viewer reminds us as we talk about Truvada as pre-exposure prophylaxis and how the studies keep proving how great it is and how 100% effective, is that it's very expensive.
And there are side effects. We're not minimizing that. Somebody said we should do a show about it, where we talk to people who use it or maybe against using it and do that.
Well, it can this viewer said it can cost up to $400 a month for people. Wow. And a gay man on Truvada is suing Mutual of Omaha in Boston because they won't sell him long-term care insurance because he's on Truvada. Crazy.
And if you want to read Chris Cooper's review of Grandma with Lily Tomlin, you can be on our email list or go to his website, cfcooper.net.
We will see you next week.
It.
Thank you, Rob Shooter.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye-bye.